Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of It's Lit. It's Dalck. This week, we are going to analyze coming to our senses. This is a science essay presented by Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. You may remember him from that famous meme. I don't know. All right. Well, I hope you do. Let's get started. Let's go right away into the lesson today. And the first thing that I want you guys to think about is how does our point of view shape what we think we know? Let's think about this question. Let's try to answer it with a discussion that we'll probably have in the live class. But how does our point of view shape what we think we know? Interesting. Let's continue. And let's go with this quick start. Some people use sensory deprivation to reduce stress. Okay, so that means that you, for example, if you want to reduce your stress, you isolate yourself in a place where you cannot hear anything, or a place, a dark room where you cannot see anything. So that's, for some people, that is, they find it helpful to reduce stress. Not hearing anything, not seeing anything for a while, a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, so that probably reduces stress. Now, the question is, would temporarily being deprived of information from your eyes, ear, and other senses be torture, or would it help you relax and focus? That's another question that we're going to be thinking about during the class. And of course, you can think about it right now and keep it in mind just to activate some knowledge of what we're going to be reading, of course, in coming to our senses. This is an absolutely awesome, I have to be honest, I love this essay. Now, the first thing that we're going to analyze from the literary point of view is going to be the development of ideas. All right, we have to make sure that we know and remember what the genre element of an essay is. In this case, we're talking about the science essay. So I got 4 basic elements that we will find in any scientific essay that you may read. So number 1 is the author introduces a key idea, often a surprising one. All right. The author of a scientific essay will normally be a scientist, and their ideas, everybody knows, sometimes are a little bit crazy. All right. We are also going to see how in an essay the author will use analogies to move from familiar concepts to complex ideas. They're going to make you create a comparison, a point of comparison, or a point of analysis or reflection from something that the author is convinced that you already know, and they are going to move you forward with examples and analogies and metaphors, maybe, in order for the reader to understand and comprehend completely what they are trying to say. They can also use scientific terminology or refer to established theories. So that's what sometimes makes reading scientific essays a little bit difficult. It's just about the vocabulary and the terminology. We just have to think about the words that they're saying. We have to think about the meaning of the words in terms of what other clues can I find in the text that will help me comprehend and understand what it's saying, or as simple as taking a dictionary and looking over the word. All right. You guys know that it's pretty easy just with the internet, with the phones, with the tablets, and with Mr. Dr. Google right there to help us to find meanings of words. Finally, a scientific essay generally sticks to facts and not the author's opinions. If you have read more than one, you will realize that these facts are normally the author's opinion. What I mean is that the author tries to be objective by sticking his opinion to the known facts. Yes, the essay is going to be sticking to the facts, but those facts are also part of the author's opinion. All right. To analyze the development of ideas in this essay, we're also going to focus on one of the main elements of every essay, that is the thesis. All right, the thesis is none but the central idea of a non-fiction text. It is developed through the use of a thesis, evidence, examples, and of course that conclusion. Analyzing the evidence and examples and how they work together can help you determine the thesis of an essay. All right, what is the proposition that the author, and in this case the scientist, is making throughout this work? You're going to find out about it by just comprehending, analyzing, and of course understanding the examples and evidence that he or she proposes in the reading. We're going to also analyze the structure. All right, the structure of an essay. We can see in this slide right here that there are parts of an essay that are necessary and that will help to develop the structure. We got on the right some examples from the text that we will be, of course, further reading. Now, the first thing is that the thesis, which is the main idea the writer wants to make about a topic, it may be stated or inferred. So, the first thing that we have to think about when we read or while we're reading an essay, specifically a scientific essay, is, well, is the thesis stated literally there and I can read it? Or do I have to infer from other types of language that the author may be using? Well, my friends, we're going to discover that in coming to our senses. And of course, you're going to see if there is a directly stated thesis, or do we have to infer it? The example that I got here from the text says, does there exist a way of knowing that transcends into Does there exist a way of knowing that transcends our biological interfaces with the environment? Is that the thesis, or is that the question that we are asking ourselves in order to find out the thesis? The second part of an essay, or the second element that we can find on an essay, is strong evidence supporting the idea. Each piece of evidence builds up upon the next in order to develop the argument. The example from the text is, in nearly every case, the job of specific apparatus is to transcend the breadth and depth of our senses. What is that evidence that we're looking for? All right, we need evidence in order to support the thesis, in order to support the central idea. And here's some evidence that the job of scientific apparatus is to transcend the breadth and depth of our senses. After that introduction, we're going to read a lot of evidence that Mr. deGrasse Tyson explains. Again, sometimes it's going to be a little bit complicated because of the terminology, but it's nothing that we wouldn't understand. The third element will be examples, because examples make the ideas interesting and relevant to the reader. If I don't show you the practical application of complicated concepts, you're never going to relate to them, you're never going to be interested. But when I use examples, I'm going to make those ideas interesting. I'm going to keep the reader engaged and focused on what he or she is reading. They will tell who, what, when, where, why, and how things are done. An example from the text would be, if we were born with magnetic detectors, the compass would never have been invented because we wouldn't ever need one. That is an example. Finally, and again, normally it's in the end of the essay, we are going to find a conclusion. This explains and summarizes the main idea developed by all of the evidence and examples. In the essay, you're going to find something similar to, discovering new ways of knowing has always heralded new windows to the universe. We are always coming to our senses. So this is just a short part of the ending of the essay, not entirely the whole conclusion, but you are going to read it and you're going to discover how it explains and summarizes to give support in the end, after presenting all of the evidence and examples, how the thesis is supported by this, and of course, giving a a satisfactory close or ending to the essay that is being presented, and of course to the idea that the writer wants to communicate. Okay? Up next, we are going to analyze tone. All right? As we've seen in other classes or in other lessons, tone is related to how we perceive the text, how the author expresses the idea in order for readers to perceive it. It's completely different to the mood. All right? We have to stop here a little bit, and there are two very similar elements in this area that are the tone and the mood. I want to explain what the mood is before we continue with the tone, which is what we're going to be focusing in. The mood, and listen carefully, the mood of a text relates or has to do with what the reader feels when you read the text. If you feel sad, if you feel happy, if you feel excited, that is the mood that the author wants to create in the reader. On the other hand, the tone is the attitude that the writer has regarding the theme or the main idea. For example, the author of this essay, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, communicates his ideas with irony and sarcasm, something that I very much appreciate, instead of a serious tone. This might be a scientific essay. This might be supported by scientific theories and assumptions, and with a lot of factual information that is real, but it's no close to being a serious one. Yes, the tone is ironic, it's sarcastic, because Neil deGrasse Tyson has a specific objective on how to communicate this and why to communicate it in this way. Tyson uses humorous language, unconventional images, and references to everyday life to make his points about science and our senses in an entertaining way. Because it is already said by many people that science and talking about science and, the different ways of measuring time, of measuring mass, all of that terminology, all of that scientific information, for most people, it's going to be boring. But when you present it in a humorous way, using unconventional images and everyday life references, you are going to keep your readers engaged and enjoying all the scientific information that you want to communicate in order to make us reflect on who we really are and what we can really do and what we cannot do as well. All right, my friends, as you can see, tone will be described in this selection using three main techniques. The first one is sarcastic reference to everyday life. Okay, for example, this is a short example taken from the text that says, and here's a new headline none of us has seen. Psychic wins the lottery. So, with the intention of being a little bit harmful to those who think or want to believe that they have a sixth sense and they can guess everything about others' life, well, here's a sarcastic take on why don't you win the lottery if you know the future. Another one technique that he uses is the unconventional image. All right, the example from the text goes like, without hardware to help our analysis and without a particular urge to lick the stuff, all we can report back to the starships, it's Captain eats a blob. All right, we're gonna get some context when you read the essay, which is gonna be already submitted and available for you to read on the web page. The third technique is the humorous language. And if you see this example that I have right here in the slide, it says, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is around to hear it, does it make a sound? My best answer to this question is, how do you know it fell? But that just gets people angry. So he's just telling an anecdote here. Again, you're going to see all the context of it when we read. But he's just commenting on an anecdote that regularly happens to him. something that regularly happens to the author, and he just takes a humorous view on it and expresses it actually using quotation marks from his own and other people's from his own words and other people's words, what they say to him and what he answers to questions like this, making people angry. Well, my friends, language conventions will be the third thing to analyze in this essay, and it's going to be about parallel structure. In this lesson, you will learn about parallel structure, which is the repetition of a pattern of words or phrases in a text. This technique helps writers organize and emphasize ideas. Here's an example from the article. Our ears can register the thunderous launch of the space shuttle, and our eyes can register the bright sandy terrain on a sunny beach. As you can see, the repetition of almost every same word, except for the words ears and eyes, will also make available the repetition of the pattern. All right? Pronoun, noun, verb. In the second one, pronoun, noun, verbs. Okay, so it's not only repeating the words themselves, but also the structure of the grammar that can also be used as parallel structure. Parallel constructions make a clear connection between the abilities of two different sentences. As you read Come Into Our Senses, note how the author uses parallel structures in these regards. As for now, people, thank you very much for watching the video. Just to summarize, we are going to go, let's get back super quickly here, and we are going to analyze the development of ideas according to the type of text. We're going to analyze the structure of the text. We're going to analyze the tone in which it is written, and of course, we're going to analyze parallel structure in the language conventions section. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. I will see you guys very, very soon.